Anybody else feel like a fake when they wear a hat? Like, I don't know how people look confident in hats. Hello everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my January wrap-up. I cannot believe it's already the time to be doing a wrap-up for 2023. This month flew by so quickly. Even though the month went by super quickly, I was able to read a bunch of books. So let's discuss the ones I can't talk about quite yet. And those are the 3 books that I'm reading for a special reading vlog, which should be out hopefully by the middle of February at the latest. So for that reading vlog, I read A Winter's Promise, which is a YA translated novel. This is the first book in a fantasy quartet, I believe, and it's about a young woman named Ophelia who is engaged to be married. Neither her nor her soon-to-be partner want to be married, but they don't really have a choice in the matter. And the thing that makes it a fantasy is that everybody lives on these spires, or these, I think they're called arcs in the book, which are basically like floating or flying citadels. And each spire or citadel has its own political structure, its own set of magical powers that people from these citadels have. And our main character can go through mirrors, and she also has the ability to read objects. So I'm not going to talk about this too much because I do go into depth on my reading vlog, but if you want a sneak peek of some of my thoughts and opinions on this, I did a Goodreads review, and I also believe I posted that review to my Instagram. So I have very complicated feelings about this, so definitely go look for that if you want to know, or just wait for that reading vlog. The next book I have is Moon of the Crusted Snow, which is a dystopian survival literary fiction novel, and it follows an indigenous community in, I think, Upper Canada somewhere, and basically it's about this very rural, isolated community as they're going into winter, but they're noticing that the outside world has shut down, or at least their connection to the outside world has shut down, and them kind of figuring out what's going on outside, but also just like surviving the winter because they don't have supplies coming in. And then the last book I read for that reading vlog so far is The Wolf and the Woodsman. This is a adult standalone fantasy novel which is inspired by Hungarian and Jewish culture. My grandmother was the daughter of Hungarian immigrants, and it's really sad because she and her brother were not taught the language purposefully, and so a couple food items have passed down from my grandmother to my dad, but he honestly doesn't really have a lot of that cultural connection, and like we don't eat those foods very often, if ever, and my grandmother doesn't really make them anymore. So Hungarian is like the most I am out of all like the white I'm made of. So like while my grandmother grew up around Hungarian immigrants and a Hungarian community and like has been to Hungary, it like never really got passed down, and so it's like something that I've always known as a part of me but never really gotten like the culture or the food or the stories. And so getting to read a fantasy novel inspired by that was something that I've always been looking for. But thoughts and opinions, again, I will be sharing a little bit in my vlog. I do want to make a disclaimer that this is a HarperCollins title, and HarperCollins is still not responding to the unions in meeting them at the table. So HarperCollins is on strike still, and so in alliance with the union, we have been told to read HarperCollins titles to support the authors, but not to review them. So that's what I'm refraining from doing. But I will say this is like a darker, gritty fantasy novel following our main character, who's a 25-year-old in a rural village in a Hungarian-inspired setting. And our main character, Ivike, is kind of offered up to these woodsmen who take girls every so often for their magical powers to bring to the king. She doesn't have any magical powers, so it's kind of a hoax that she is getting selected to be the next like sacrificial offering. And then the 4th novel I read this month is unfortunately another HarperCollins title. Honestly, I do read Harper Voyager, but I don't read it that often. I think I only read 2 books from Harper Voyager last year, so I'm honestly really surprised that I read any titles this year, especially so quickly in the year. But this is Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, which is the 2nd book in the Farseer trilogy, which is the first trilogy in the Farseer universe. And this book is following our main character Fitz, who lives in a medieval style setting, and it's just him growing up as a bastard trying to fit in and survive this royal court. And in this book he is, I think, starts maybe at like 14, 15, and it's kind of going through his like teenage years. And in the background, the big bad of the series is there are these red ship raiders who are inflicting like this disease or something onto citizens that they are raiding, and it forces them to become emotionless zombies. and so it's not something that's easily fought or can be cured. But there's a lot more to the series than that. But overall, I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on this series, and I would love to discuss them once the union is off strike. And then to complete my month, I have 7 books in a manga series, and that is going to be Apothecary Diaries. So let me just show off the Apothecary Diaries covers. 2, 3. I think this art is stunning, and along with that, the art inside is also really beautifully done. And then 7. But Apothecary Diaries is a CN manga series. It's either based off of a light novel or a web novel series. I think it's a light novel series, but this is a CN historical setting. And CN basically just means that it is for a older male demographic normally. I think this reads very accessible to upper teens and adults, as well as a female and a male demographic. The fan service in here isn't super fan service-y in my opinion. It didn't bother me like a lot of other fan service scenes do. That's all to say that this is a adult series following a young girl in what I think is supposed to be historical China. And basically our main character Mao Mao has been taken into the inner court to be a palace maid. And Mao Mao has been trained partially as an apothecary, and she just loves apothecary work, plants, poisons, all of that. And because of her curiosity, her skills and talents, and just her ability to get into trouble, she lands herself higher up in the inner court, working as a maid and a poison tester for one of the king's consorts. And from there, she kind of gets wrapped up in this eunuch figure who's kind of this mysterious man who seems to be running the inner palace. And she and him are solving these small little mysteries that coincidentally seem to start to connect together. So there's murder, there's intrigue, there's palace politics, and there's Mao Mao, who's just a really fun character navigating all of these things and solving these mysteries. Mao Mao is a great main character. She's like a 14, 15-year-old girl, but she is trained, she's skilled, and she's just a really funny character as well. But she's honestly one of the strongest female characters that I've come across in manga in a really long time. She has a lot of great setup where she's kind of closed off and doesn't want to get close to people, which gives her a lot of great room to grow as a person through the entire story. But again, she's talented, she's skilled, she's smart, she's really clever, which means that she's solving and navigating these situations by herself, which is just something really satisfying to read. But again, because of her situation as a commoner in the inner court and just a lot of other factors, these mysteries aren't too easy to solve. She has to kind of work around a lot of different things, and I just really love this series. I had read it in December online and was like, yes, this is fantastic. I'm definitely going to pick up and collect this series. It was kind of a love at first sight kind of thing where I knew that I loved it right away, and so here we are now. I reread it, and again, I just simply love this series. And this is like a great starting point for fans of shoujo and josei who kind of want to get into other demographics. Because we're following a female main character, it just reads very shoujo josei, but it's also just a really, really great story with really great fun characters. And I believe that this has been, I don't know what the term is, marketed off. It is going to be made into an anime at some point. I do believe that was announced. So I'm definitely looking forward to that and for this series to hopefully get more popular. It is just a fantastic series. But yes, I had such a great time reading this series as well as reading the other 4 books that I read. So definitely stay tuned for that reading vlog. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later and happy reading.